play basketball.
3,000! History with an exclamation point!
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied. The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Okay, well, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to episode 989 of the podcast. We're getting close to 1K here on BD4. I do appreciate everybody who's tuned in over the years. In this episode, because the Knicks don't play until later on tonight, and because we're trying to be active, because the Yankees aren't active, we're going to talk New York Yankees, and we're going to talk about another potential addition to this team. I believe the last time we spoke about the Yankees was a couple of days ago. Yeah, when we did our Michael Kopech episode and how they could make a deal for him. This one's kind of like a unique one because he's a completely different pitcher, completely different track record. But this is a left-handed relief pitcher who I think the Yankees should target. He is somebody who spent 6 seasons, or who has spent 6 seasons in the National League. Spent his first few seasons with the Phillies, and then recently his last few seasons have come with the St. Louis Cardinals. He's a 29-year-old who doesn't turn 30 until September, which is good because he's expiring money due at the end of the year on a rebuilding team. That is JoJo Romero on the St. Louis Cardinals. And St. Louis is obviously in the midst of this rebuild. They're trying to move off what they can. They just made a 3-team deal offloading Brendan Donovan, and it seems like JoJo Romero could be next. But this is a very good pitcher who's got a career 3.55 ERA, 123 whip. Last season, he put up a 2.07 ERA and a 125 whip in 61 innings. Yankees have faced him before, not a lot, but they faced him one time in 2024 where he shut the Yankees out for an inning and a third. And then they faced him once last year in August where he gave up a bunch of runs against them. But he's a big dude, 5'11", but he's 215. He's a sidearm lefty with a wicked slider and a very balanced pitch mix that I want to dive into here. And we're going to break down some of the numbers, the analytics, and just talk about what JoJo Romero could look like in a bullpen like the Yankees. And we'll do that the minute we get back from our first break here on the podcast. Stay with us. We'll be back in about 20 seconds.
Quick break here, guys. Stay connected with BD4 on social media. Follow us on Instagram and X at BD4Pod, and find us on Facebook by searching BD4. Don't miss out. Join the conversation.
Okay. Welcome back to the show. Episode 989 of the podcast, talking about JoJo Romero, who I think could really fit in this Yankees bullpen. He is a pitcher who relies on just elite break on his stuff. I mean, we're going to go through some of the numbers here, but you're talking about a pitcher who is primarily a 3-pitch pitcher, and he has the stuff for both lefties and righties. Overall, he is slider, sinker, changeup with the occasional 4-seam fastball. Against lefties, he is slider, sinker, so he can tunnel those two pitches together. And against righties, he's slider, sinker, changeup. Obviously, throwing that changeup as something soft to have that goes to the opposite plane. But he's known for his wipeout slider. Anybody who's watched him pitch knows that thing is filthy. It's more of a sweeper. I guess it would classify as a sweeper today, just because it's got big horizontal break and it's slower in its speed. Excuse me. 5.5 inches of glove side break on this pitch. That is 95th percentile in baseball in horizontal break. It sits 83 miles an hour in velocity. It's about 11 miles an hour less than his primary fastball, his sinker. The league average in terms of difference from your changeup to sinker for lefties was about 8 miles an hour last year. So, big difference between his fastball and his slider. It's a slider that also gets exceptional spin. Sat at 2,800 RPMs last year. That's 96th percentile. 34% whiff rate, which is 52nd percentile for a slider, but just in terms of overall whiff rate, that's 10% better than league average. Super tough slider to pick up and square up on from that sidearm arm slot that he throws at it, especially for lefties. I mean, trying to hit that pitch left on left when it's coming at you from that slot, it's no wonder that he allows a 203 average and a 250 slug to lefties with the slider. But righties too. I mean, righties hit 133 with a 177 slug on it. Obviously a smaller sample, but it's a pitch that is his out pitch. I talk a lot on this show about how the Yankees didn't really have a go-to slider guy all season. You know, that's usually a staple for them. They tried to get some of that at the deadline. Jake Bird has a big slider. They sent him down. Camilo Doval didn't really click for him at the end of the year. So they lost Jay Cousins. I feel like getting a guy like JoJo Romero with just a filthy slider could really benefit this team. But he also has a good two-seam fastball. It's not a fastball that gets great results, but it profiles pretty well. It's about 94 miles an hour in velocity. It gets above average spin, 2,100 RPMs. That was 57th percentile last season. Gets about 2 inches of sink on it. That sits 81st percentile. So very good. About an inch of tail. So it gets that arm side run, 73rd percentile there. So the movement's there. The velocity's fine. And although righties mashed that pitch, I mean, they were 351 last year with a 486 slug. Lefties don't touch his two-seamer. 240 average, but the slug was also 240. 23% whiff rate on it. That's 17% more swing and miss than righties got on that pitch. So I think part of the reason that sinker works so well for lefties is because he can play it off the slider. And he can tunnel it since both of those pitches are going in complete opposite directions, right? You throw him that two-seamer at 94, tailing into a lefty, and then you're asking them to hit the slider right off of that, going the opposite way at a softer speed. I mean, that's tough. That's a tough sequence right there. And then he's got a great changeup that he dominates righties with. So although he doesn't get righties with the two-seamer, he can get them with that changeup. Not a ton of difference in speed between his changeup and sinker, but it's still difficult to pick up following the sinker because of the major difference in spin. This is a very low spin changeup, 1.3 K in RPMs last year. That's at 8th percentile from low to high. So it's very similar to, if we're trying to think of other Yankees relievers who had low spin changeups, Tommy Kahnle comes to mind. Clay Holmes comes to mind. It's the very opposite of Devin Williams' changeup, which was more of a high spin screwball type pitch. JoJo's going to get little spin on his, which is why it makes it tough for righties to hit that following the two-seamer. Gets 2.5 inches of drop on it, 80th percentile, 31% whiff rate last year. That was 48th percentile for changeups. But again, it's a lot higher than your league average whiff rate overall. the changeup that he back foots very well to get those swings and misses and to get soft contact. So overall, that changeup induced a 167 average, 271 slug. Very good numbers there. Again, it's a pitch that he only exclusively goes to righties with. And he's just a really soft contact guy. Induces very weak contact with his pitch mix. 87 miles an hour in exit velo last year. That was 91st percentile. 35% hard hit rate. That sat in the 88th percentile. He avoids the barrel very well with his pitches. Just a 7% barrel rate last year, which was 69th percentile. So all of that just gets him a ton of ground balls. 57% ground ball rate, which sits in the 95th percentile. The slider gets super weak contact. The sinker and the changeup get very low launch angles, so those balls are hit on the ground a lot. And I just think, it makes him perfect for Yankee Stadium, because if he's going to be facing a lot of lefties, he's a guy who does not allow lefty hitters to pull the ball in the air. He was greater than 6.5% better than league average in terms of allowing guys to pull the ball in the air on him. For his career, last season, 0.3 home runs per 9. That is a very good, very promising figure there. Keeps the ball in the park. He's just perfect for a team like that, especially the Yankees, who, if he's getting a lot of ground balls, you've got Ryan McMahon at third. You've got, Jose Caballero and Anthony Volpe at short. And on the other side of the infield, you've got Jazz Chisholm at second base for a full season. So that's going to help. Ground ball pitcher with a good defense, theoretically, should help. And you never know with Matt Blake. Maybe he taps into something that leads to more strikeouts, because despite him being a high ground ball, low strikeout guy, he was only 43rd percentile in K rate last year. He was 63rd percentile in whiff rate. So that tells me that maybe there's something there, that maybe there's more of a positive indicator that will turn around and start getting more strikeouts. If you do get a lot of swing and miss, maybe some of that's just bad luck. But I like him a lot. And I think he's just a much better version of Tim Hill and Ryan Yarbrough. Speaking of those two guys, you do wonder if it's like overkill with the left-handed pitchers in there. Because what was once a bullpen that you could maybe argue needed another lefty, is it too much now if you're bringing in JoJo? Because there is a real chance that each of Yarbrough, Hill, and Hedrick make the 26th this spring. And Weathers. Weathers could also be a part of that pen at some point if the Yankees really want to keep him healthy. So in my opinion, in general, you really don't want more than 3 lefties in your bullpen. With Hedrick, there's a lot of promising stuff there. The Yankees like him. You could say the same thing about Ryan Weathers. Tim Hill has been rock solid for the Yankees. They keep bringing him back. Yarbrough was very versatile. He was more of a swingman, very helpful to them last year. So it is a lot of left-handed pitching, which makes me a little skeptical as to if they're going to go after him or not. And then you also wonder if adding him would be a little overboard on soft throwers, because he's not a fastball guy. And my main issue last year was that the Yankees lacked velocity in their bullpen. Their bullpen was bottom third in baseball in terms of average fastball velo. And my main point of, optimism this offseason has been that they have added some more velocity. They've added Ryan Weathers. You're getting a full season of Camilo and of Bednar. Luis Heel could be part of that bullpen next year. You never know. But, maybe Schlittler's in the pen at some point next year. JoJo Romero is not a four-seam guy. He's not a velocity guy. He was 6% four-seamer in usage last year. He sits 94 miles an hour with it, gets mediocre spin. He doesn't get a lot of extension. It doesn't have a ton of ride on it. So, bringing him in, it's JoJo, it's Yarbrough, it's Hill, it's Blackburn even, who doesn't throw very hard. It is a little bit underwhelming in terms of stuff and pure velocity. And then you also worry about, the walk issues with guys who throw a lot of off speed like JoJo. This Yankee bullpen was top 10 in walk rate last year. Top 10 is in lowest to highest. That's not good. And JoJo, his walk rate last season was 11.5% about. That's 8th percentile. It was terrible. Now, the good thing is he never had too many walk issues before. That was the highest it's been in a full season sample. So he could get that back under control. But I do get the concern there as a guy with declining strikeout numbers and rising walk numbers. That's a little bit alarming. So that's just a little bit about Romero. We'll talk a little more on him when we get back from our final break here. Stick with us on episode 989. Be back in a sec.
Want more BD4? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an episode. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and share with your fellow fans. Don't forget to ring that bell so you're always the first to know when a new video drops. Love BD4 but don't have the time to sit down and watch? Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star rating and a quick review. It helps us grow and keeps the conversation going.
Okay, welcome back to the podcast, episode 989 of the show. I appreciate you all tuning in. Talking about JoJo Romero, fun name to say, and could be a fun arm to add to the bullpen, despite some of the major concerns with the Ks to walk ratio. But I do, all in all, think this should be an arm the Yankees are in on, since it costs very little on payroll. He's making just $4 million here, and then he's up. And also, I'm unsure what the trade package would be specifically, but again, since he's a rental contract, it can't be too steep, So I think it has potential to be another one of those low risk, potentially high reward moves. I am not sure who else is interested in the JoJo market right now. I think Seattle at one point was, but they did make a move for a pretty big reliever earlier. And this is a name the Yankees were interested in early in the offseason, but you haven't really heard a thing about it since. So with names coming off the board, there are still some left out there. Kopech in terms of free agents, and Romero in terms of a guy who could be traded very soon. Yeah, that's my thoughts on him. Just wanted to dive into some of the numbers, and again, if you're more about the traditionals, again, he had a 2.07 ERA last year, and he's consistently pretty good there in terms of run prevention. Doesn't give up a ton of hits. It's the walks that will most likely, or it's the walks that will raise the whip. But still, 125 whip last year is not bad. 123 in his career is not that much off. So, what do you think about JoJo Romero? Do you like him? Should the Yankees add him? Would you add him? That's where I am. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Episode 989 of the podcast. You guys do know where to find me. I'm on social media. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, although I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find our blog, which we hop onto once in a while and write up some word vomit at bd4blog.wordpress.com. So that's where you find me. We're coming up on episode 1000. We'll see what that's about. Is it Knicks? Is it Yankees? Is it a good news episode? Is it a bad news episode? We'll find out. We'll let the sports world decide. But I do appreciate everybody who's tuned in over the years. And JoJo Romero, potential Yankee? We'll see. Let me know. Appreciate it, and I'll see you soon. Later. Hey guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.